But I wonder at this time what time of year this was. What time did the word of the Lord come to Elijah? If I was a betting man, I would say it would come during the dry season. Now, if Israel has a wet season and a dry season, that's the way they have it. I bet it was in the middle of the dry season that God said, "Go tell them it's going to rain." Because it wouldn't be too much to think to go out in the wet season and get up and pronounce it, because it's like, well, of course it's supposed to be raining now, and of course it would rain. They would just think logically. But my observation about God is that He works out in the realm of impossibilities. He works where there's no possible hope that man or nature or anything is going to come to your aid. If we could do it without God, then I think it's not a God thing. All this stuff, like I was talking earlier about raising money for cancer and all this good stuff, but it's not a God thing. All the things that the man does, saving the planet, it's good, but it has nothing to do with God. We can do it in our own. We can organize something, call up people, raise funds, do whatever we have to do to get the job done. But it doesn't bring heaven to earth. It's not a God thing. It doesn't work in the supernatural. This is one of the lessons we have to learn as Christians. We are, on the one hand, we are responsible to make our lives better. But then on the other hand, we are also responsible to live on that edge to where we're out there where we pray about and we act upon things that only God can do. Because it's really safe to live in all the stuff that we can do. If we can take care of ourselves and we can do this and we don't really need God and we can just go to church and read the Bible and do all these other things, pray and stuff, but there's really no supernatural move of God in our life. It's just easy to live that way. But Elijah wasn't going to live that way. He wanted to live out on the edge where, he gets out there and he confesses it, and if God don't show up, he looks like the biggest fool in the world. There are those wilderness times when God provides in the miraculous, like during the dry season. When the children of Israel were in the wilderness, there was no way that they could survive without a move of God. They didn't have a city. They didn't live in any cities. They just lived out in the middle of the desert. They had no farms. They didn't plow. They didn't sow. They had maybe their sheep and stuff. But unless God moved, they were not going to be, they're going to perish out in the desert. And you see that all through the thing. And God will have you someplace at that time. When there's no hope, God will come to your rescue. But you can't always live there. We always like to live there. We're like, oh God, please send us a check in the mail. Do this, do that. We want to, God said, go out and get a job. There's a job out there for you. And we want to live in the wilderness where we don't have to do anything. We're just wandering around. We love to live there, but God doesn't call us to that because we're promised land people. And in the promised land, they fought. In the promised land, there was no manna from heaven. There was no divine provision of manna from heaven. They had to plow the land and grow the crops and pick the crops and do whatever they had to do to make it. Let's see. The children of Israel in the desert, they were at the mercy of the elements in the desert. But God provided a cloud over them from the heat. Now, in the movie, it was just this big pillar of smoke. But I actually think it was more like a cloudy day. It just covered them. Where everybody else was baking in the sun, they had overcast, and they were covered, and they were nice and cool and clouded. And then they had the pillar of fire by night, which I think was a pillar of fire. But I wondered about this, wonder if they complained about light pollution. I live in Woodland by Davis, and they have these ordinances against light pollution, so that they have all the lights have to reflect down, so that the people that like to look at the stars don't get, they can still look at the stars, And in Acts chapter 7, verse 24, it says, God gave them up to serve the host of heaven, as it was written in the books of the prophet. Did you offer me slain beasts and sacrifices 40 years in the wilderness, O house of Israel? See, God, they turned to the astrology, in the wilderness. They did. They were looking up to the stars and still trying to somehow guide. Even though they had the clouds by day and the pillar by night, they still worshiped the Queen of Heaven. they offered up cakes to the Queen of Heaven. They still had that religion there. I wonder if they complained they couldn't see their stars because that pillar of fire annoyed them. There's always that little thing there annoying the people that they want to do their religious thing. And it's like there's always that fire there. It's kind of like Elisha was right there and then. He was like the fire. All the people, they were doing the prophets of Baal and they were doing their religion, but then over in the corner they had that fire. And they couldn't clearly get the word of the Lord or from their stars. They couldn't read the stars because they could. There's like that dude over there annoying me, bugging me, man. He's over there. And the children of Israel in the wilderness had the same thing. They got that light could just go out. We could see the stars. The Queen of Heaven, we could read what it says and we could find out what to do. But God wouldn't let them. He messed up. It just goes to show you, if you refuse to worship God according to the revelation He has chosen to give you, He will mess up your idolatrous worship. Whatever you do to save yourself won't work. God will mess you up. That's why we've got so many Christians and non-Christians in addictions. Because they put these addictions up. Instead of turning to God and praying to God and believing God that He can